So I'm going to show you this Abilify right here. I'm on this website, RxISC, where it talks about Abilify. Abilify is prescribed as antipsychotic. And they did this study on people who take Abilify, and they said they were acting out with aggression. They report unusual aggression or anger, violent physical assaults on family members, bizarre and frightening thoughts and things that led to assault. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because I just found out that my son Desmond was taking Abilify while he was at Applewood Centers. They had prescribed him Abilify. No one told me any of this. When I talked to the program manager, she always told me that he was taking medication to stop urinating. That was all he was taking. But the caseworkers knew about it. She claimed that the caseworker should have told me. She doesn't have to tell me all this stuff. And, they were very transparent with everything else. No one has ever told me. Everybody has always told me what other kind of medication he was taking, but they did not tell me he was taking Abilify. And it's odd that, now all of a sudden my son is getting reported for all these aggressive behaviors. They said he went AWOL, tried to take the keys from one of the female staff, and that they claim now he's facing this rape charge. And they're saying all this stuff, but they never told me my son was taking Abilify. And as you can see, the study, you can go to the site yourself. There's a lot of different symptoms that people have gotten from taking Abilify. And I want to know why he's being prescribed that. No one ever told me. They said, it was because of compulsive behavior. But as you can see here, Abilify is a psychotic drug. It's an antipsychotic. And my daughter was also taking Abilify. Conveniently, they didn't tell me about it. She was taking aripiprazole, the generic version of that, around the same time. Around July, she had first started taking it. And this is around the time where they claimed that she had aggressive behaviors. She was always getting combative with her foster mother, and they blamed it on the visits. They said it happened because every time she came to visit with me, and they stopped our visitation. We have not seen each other in person for over 7 months, even though the case plan says we're supposed to see each other, we're supposed to have visits. This is a lot of the stuff that they're covering up in Ohio. And this is why Ohio is being judged, because a lot of corruption has been going on within the Department of Children and Family Services and within the Cuyahoga County Juvenile Court. And the stuff has been covered up. There's been no one to fight and speak up for the parents. They have done whatever they want to do. They have violated our civil rights. When they first wrongfully took my kids out of the home and lied and said that I had educational neglect, even though my children are in school, the caseworker lied and said that it was not an accredited school. Even though the Richmond Heights local school district where my children were currently, they held up the academic records and I could not get my kids in school. They never approached them. They never said anything. All of this stuff is being covered up because they wrongfully took my kids out of the home. And this relates to something that happened with a man who was in Pennsylvania who was antagonizing my family. He's still being covered up. So this is why you're saying all of this stuff happened to Ohio and Pennsylvania, because they are being judged by God. This is why there's been train derailments and accidents and explosions and all types of things happening over the period of just several weeks, because Ohio and Pennsylvania are being judged by God because of all the corruption. They have not stood up. And when you touch a servant of God, yes, I was his servant and I was assigned to do his work. And he has sent me around to pray for his people. And I've seen everything. He has saw everything that was done. And none of you have stood up to help me. No one has stood up to help me when I talked about all the things that's happened to my children, all the corruption. There's a long list of things that's been happening while my children have been in foster care, including my daughter gaining weight and being having diabetes, something that she was never had ever before she went into foster care, including the wrongful arrest of my son, having my son who they claim had, needed to be completely monitored and evaluated, but allowing him to go to a group home that was not secure to the point he could just walk out of it and then end up going into a house and getting charged with burglary. All this stuff has happened. And they had no right to hold my kids in the first place. And all these things are happening, and and God has saw everything, but I have not gotten anyone to stand up for me. Like I said, the attorneys will go to court, the public defenders, no one will say a word about anything that's happening. They lie in court, they cover it up. And this is why Ohio is being judged. This is why Pennsylvania is being judged. This is why the storms will continue to go forth, because you have not done what you're supposed to do. You have not stood up to stand up and fight, meaning you have not come in and investigated these people and spoke up on behalf of all the children and families who have been mistreated, all those who have been violated. These people have done whatever they want to do. And if you speak up, if any of the kids speak up, or the parents speak up, they retaliate against you. They hold your kids even longer. They retaliate when they do whatever they want to do. They don't go by any type of protocol. They don't change the case plan anytime they want to. They don't even have to abide by the case plan if they don't want to. Like I said, they took my kids out of the home and said I had a mental illness that you never even had a proper diagnosis for, and lied and said I had schizophrenia. But I went, every single evaluation I'd gone to did not have that. They had a completely different diagnosis that says something about an adjustment disorder, which means that I was having problems adjusting to the situation I was going through currently, which was the loss of my children. And so since you all have failed to stand up and you still keep covering up and holding on to my kids, God is going to continue to bring his wrath down upon Ohio and Pennsylvania. Because you have continued to protect a man who's assaulted me and my daughter. You've covered up for him, and he is a part of Pennsylvania. He lives in Pennsylvania, and they have not released him. So this is why God is bringing his judgments down. When you do corruption and you prescribe medication for children, you give them medication that they're not even supposed to have so you can get your little kickbacks. This is medical malpractice. There's a lot of stuff that's going on that has been covered up. And God is not going to stop bringing forth his storms until you all do what you're supposed to do.